In this video, I'm going to deal with a couple of questions related to percentage of amounts. This is quite an important step after learning how to write things as percentages. And percentages of an amount can be calculated in many different ways, but I'm going to stick to a few here, or try my best to show you a couple of methods and then always go to the method that you're most comfortable with. So percentage of amounts always start with the simple phrasing of find, for example, 16% of 23 pounds. So your whole part is 23, so this whole thing could represent 23, and you only want a 16% of it. So you want to see how much that is. The quick calculator method is basically you converting this worded phrase into a mathematical sentence, and that is done by, well, this will turn into a 16%. The most important part is the of turns into a multiply, and then your 23 just stays at 23. And then you just multiply them normally. We can change this to a fraction, and so you get 16 times 23 as the numerators, and then 100 times 1, which is just 100. You can plug this into your calculator, and you will get £3.68. £3.68. So this is the quickest way to find the percentage of an amount. 16%, 16 over 100, and then times that. The longer way to find it, which is what they usually teach you when you're starting percentage of amounts without a calculator, is to, so this is method 1, and the other method, they'd always tell you to find the 1%. Or they tell you to find the 1% and then the 10%, and then you combine them on the 5% and you combine them all together. It's just a longer way. So the 1% of 23 would basically be, well, same idea. 1% is 1 over 100 times 23 over 1, and that will be 23 over 100. You don't need to go through this step. You can immediately always think that, well, if I want to find 1% of something, I'm always going to divide it by 100. So 1% means divided by 100, or it's the same as equivalent to. So 23 divided by 100, so that is easily 0.23. And then to find 16%, well, how can I get from 1% to 16%? I can just multiply by 16. And similarly, to get from 0.23 to the amount that I need, I'm going to multiply by 16. So the 16% will just be 0.23 times 16. So you found the 1%. This is your 1%. And now you want 16 of that. So your 1% is 0.23. And because you want 16 of that, you're going to multiply it by 16 because you want the 16%. And that should give you the same answer as £3.68. So that's the longer way of going through it, finding the 1% and then multiplying by how much you have. And typically we use this method when you don't have a calculator. So this is for non-calculator. And the first method is when you typically have a calculator, you should go much simpler. So this is the simpler way. Let's say you have another type of question, and I tell you, this time I'm not giving you the whole, I'm giving you the part, the percentage that I found. So if I told that 25% of an amount, okay, so of an amount, we don't know this amount, is 85.4, let's say, kilograms. Okay, so 25% of something's weight, for example, a construction is 85.4. And I ask you, what is the full weight? or mass? What is the full mass? So it's important that you understand this question. They've gone through the calculation already. They've done the 25 of the amount. They've done the multiply by 25. They've done the divide by 100, and they got 85.4. So I can represent this answer using 3 different methods. The first one is to translate everything I just said into algebra. So let's go back. Let's pretend we have the amount. So our amount will be x. And you've taken 25% of it. So this is what we said, you take 25% of the amount. And I'm gonna just multiply this as if I know what's gonna happen. So this is over 100. And this should give me this 85%. This is what the question is telling me. Well, I can easily now cross multiply and I could solve for x. So I'll just cross multiply here. So I get 25x and then I get 100 multiplied by 85.4. And so x is equal to 100 times 85.4 divided by 25. And x will be 341.6, and we're dealing with kilograms, so I'm gonna write kilogram in there. So this is the algebraic method. You've done the 25% of the unknown amount and you got 85.4, and you solve it for x, and that's where you're gonna go. Obviously you want a number way bigger than 85. Because that's you taking 25% of it. Always double check your answer. You can easily double check it with these questions. They're self-checked, so you could go 25% of 341.6 kg and see if you actually get 85.4. So that's method 1. The second method is to find the 1%. Now you'll notice we're basically going to do the same exact calculation in every step. It's not a different calculation. It's just the way I illustrate the method will look different, but we're always going to multiply by 100 and divide by 25 eventually. The other method is to find the 1%. Okay, so you want to find the 1%. So I know that 25% is 85.4. If I want to know the 1%, I'm going to divide 85.4 by 25. And that will tell me what each part is equal to. So each part, and I mean by 1%, is equal to 3.416. So now, generally, maybe the question did not ask you for the full mass. It might have asked you for the for 13% of the mass or 29% of the mass. And this is where this method is helpful, because you found the 1% and you can easily find any other percent. So the 16% or the, say, the 98th percent. So you can easily find the other percentages because you found this 1%. And so if I want to find the 100%, I'm just going to multiply by 100. And I multiply this by 100. And I get 341.6 kilograms. So same method. So as you notice, we still divided by 25. We multiplied by 100. It's just understanding the concept. The third method is one of my favorite methods, because it not only can it be used in this technique, it can be used in a lot of ratio, proportion, percentages type questions, even algebraic questions, so, but mainly proportion questions. So it's talking about equivalences, and I'm not going to use the equal sign because it's the wrong notation to use. I'm going to use the equivalent sign. So the equivalent sign just tells me that these two things are sort of equal. So if I have they've told me that 25% of the amount is equivalent to 85.4. Then I'm going to ask myself, well, what is 100% equivalent to? And I'm going to represent this by x. And again, this method, just like the previous one, can be used with any percentage. So let's say they said 25 and then you want the 10% or the 13th percent. You can easily put the number here instead. And once you've done this equivalency, all you'll have to do is cross multiply. And so we get to 25x is equal to 100 times 85.4. And it's good if you spotted that we're back to method 1 by now, and you divide, you divide by 25 here. So as you notice, same exact calculations, nothing different in any of them, is just understanding how you do them. So either you use algebra from the beginning, or you do the 1%, or you do the equivalency, which can be used in many different examples.